All right, hello everyone, and welcome to the second premiere of the all-new Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door Any% TAS. So, uh, unlike my first showcase, you should be able to hear the commentators first try. So I'm joined by Soric and Minato.
What's up?
Hello.
All right, so we got both of them in call. Yeah, I'm gonna take you through the speedy journey that is TTYD Any%. Do both of you have the video booted up?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm ready.
All right, ready for the countdown?
Yep.
Mhm.
All right, we'll get started in 3, 2, 1, go. Let me make sure it updates here. Okay. One thing you're going to notice, I'm going to be playing back a version of the video feed that uses a overlay to the side. So through that overlay, you'll be able to see various different stats for Mario, as well as the current time for the TAS as we progress further into the game. Another thing you'll notice too is we're now using the US version of the game, so now all the text is in English. For previous TASs and previous RTA speedruns a couple months ago, people chose to use Japanese because of a region-exclusive, faster version of Teleported Room Early, and I'll explain more about the purpose of that glitch later. But basically, due to a newer method of Teleported Room Early, that regional difference is no longer present. So after timing some other regional differences, it was found that it's actually faster now to run the US version of the game. Woohoo!
Yeah, this is the first time we're running on US like competitively for the fastest any% versions. It's like 2014. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Wow, has it really been that long?
Well, I
Yeah,
think
the end of 2014 is when Ultra Rare Early was discovered on Japanese, and we just
Mhm.
switched over and never looked back, except for when the categories split, because there was such a big time difference.
the thing
yeah.
about that time period too is before 2014, right? That one region didn't have a noticeable advantage over the other, right? But so this is really the first time that US is actually legitimately faster than the Japanese version.
Mhm.
Yeah, back in the day, we just kind of ran on whatever version we had, which was the US version for the majority of runners.
Uh-huh. So yeah, throughout the task, there's going to be a lot of variations from what you would normally see for a normal RTA speedrun. If you're not familiar with what a TAS is, essentially it's a theoretical demonstration of what it would look like if you played the game perfectly. And that's done by using slowdown and rewind and being able to input very precise GameCube controller inputs. And speaking of precise inputs, you're going to notice right off the bat here I can do a continuous set of jumps. In this game, you move faster while walking up or down compared to left or right, and I can lock that speed value, the faster speed value, by moving up for 1 frame or down for 1 frame, and then progressively jumping frame perfectly in any direction. As well as approaching the crump fight, I can actually angle my analog stick towards the wall a little bit to get an additional small speed boost from what I call wall boosting.
We do these speed swaps in RTA, but obviously the TAS executes them much better than any human can.
Right.
Right. Even though they are frame perfect for carrying them over jumps, it's pretty consistent.
Yeah.
You'd be surprised.
I imagine you can get into the rhythm of it pretty easily.
Oh yeah,
absolutely.
it's pretty easy to carry like up to 6 or 7 without much of an issue.
And that Crump fight is pretty straightforward. Jump twice with Mario. When Crump attacks Mario, we can use something called a Super Guard by pressing B within a 3-frame window when Crump attacks us. And that can cause Mario to deflect all damage dealt to him and instead return 1 damage to Crump. And then we follow that up with 2 more jumps and take out Crump. Also, what's weird is this cutscene here with the X-Nauts, when they come out and when they stop jumping here, the length of these 2 cutscenes is actually random. It's based on RNG, and so to try to get the theoretical fastest cutscene duration, I had to use a brute force script to try to change RNG in different ways. So I don't know why that cutscene's random, but it is.
There's actually a video out there somewhere where someone locks the RNG value during that cutscene, and the X-Nauts all come out in waves. It looks really cool.
Yeah. This cutscene's pretty straightforward. Goombella and Mario are going to, they're meeting for the first time, and they're discussing the magical map that brought Mario here. And they're discussing how they're going to embark on their very long journey to save the world, but I guess they got to be back in time for dinner, because it's not going to take them more than 2 hours. So.
A grand adventure to all these 3 locations.
Yes. So you're going to see in a little bit, Goombella right here, she's going to demonstrate her ability on a Goomba named Goomfree. No, I'm sorry, Goomther. I get them mixed up. So he walks here. He's actually also in the overworld. So if he turns around in the overworld while in the cutscene, he does a moonwalk.
Oh, that's why that happens?
Yeah. It doesn't save or lose any time. It's just really funny. Additionally, you would normally talk to Zest T here. She's blocking the way to West Rogueport, and you have to break her contact lens and then order the contact lens in the shop. But instead, for this task, we can actually modify the route such that we actually avoid re-entering Central Rogueport and trying to get to West Rogueport from there. And instead, we can get to West Rogueport by going through the sewers. Also, right here, there's for some reason, it's not even framed perfectly. If you hammer right before grabbing an item, or right before pressing A to buy an item, it lets you hammer for some reason. Up here, oh yeah. Up here is a trick called fence skip. You normally have to talk to Frankly to remove a portion of the fence so that you can make it down to the Rogueport sewers. That's a very long cutscene, so we're going to skip it. This is Goomfree, the Goomba. He normally walks in a circle of a certain radius, but if we do some shenanigans while he's on the edge of the circle, we can actually get him to walk beyond the edge of the circle, have him walk towards Merlin's door, and then have him block Mario when he tries to enter. So now we're stuck in a black void where collision isn't loaded for some parts of the map. So I first use that to grab the double dip badge, jump on top of the chest, make my way towards the pipe after that, and then I can enter the sewers. Also, there's a flag that detects you are entering the sewers for the first time, so it gives you Frankly. And that's a region-exclusive glitch where the platform there moves far enough to the left to allow Mario to jump between it and the wall to the left, and it can cause Mario to get pushed into the wall to the left, so that skips the normally required Goomba Trio fight. And
I just want to say that the fence skip they did on the screen a couple screens ago, that's actually some pretty insane NPC manipulation. I messed around with it for hours and never got anywhere close.
Yeah, it has to deal a lot with walking timers, a little bit of RNG manipulation to try to minimize those timers so he's not standing around as long. But yeah, no, I made a video on it last year, and it's really cool to be able to look into, you know, the technical side behind why that works.
I'm pretty sure there is an RTA demonstration of that trick, but it takes like 13 minutes.
I think Venive pulled it off in a video RTA. But at that point, it's not faster, yeah.
Oh, no, not at all.
I also didn't mention, when we went to the item shop, I got 9 Fright Masks. Fright Masks are going to be really useful for our XP route, because anytime we use a Fright Mask to scare enemies away in fights, Mario will only be rewarded 1 experience point. And additionally, the animation for Fright Masks is pretty fast, so that'll allow us to get through fights pretty quickly. Normally, you would visit the 1,000-year door after grabbing the paper plane ability, but instead we can make use of a glitch called the blooper skip 2 rooms from now, in order to be able to get the Chapter 1 a lot earlier than intended.
Yeah, so whenever you enter a new room in this game, the hazard respawn position, which is the set of coordinates that Mario appears on when he touches water, spikes, etc., is always set to the center of the room, or I think there's 1 or 2 exceptions, but in this case it's the center of the room. So by executing 1 frame jumps out of the loading zone, you can get to the boat panel, which doesn't set the hazard respawn position, then jump in the water and it brings them right over to this platform.
And there you go. So for reference, how fast is a really good prologue for RTA?
With the current RTA route, it's like a 10:20, 10:15.
Okay. I think this was about a minute 40 faster. Mostly just due to a really perfect Goomba Trio skip and the fence skip. The fence skip being, you know, the majority of that time save.
Oh yeah, and skipping Zesty.
Right, yeah. I think that initially saves about 20 seconds or so because you're skipping talking to Zesty and you're skipping ordering the contact lens.
Right.
So one side effect of doing that blooper skip and using the hazard respawn glitch to perform that, frankly now follows us into chapter 1, and he's going to be with us for quite a while. So I'll try to be sure to point out all the funny side effects that occur. Like with that Hooktail cutscene, you might have noticed the lighting was incorrect when Hooktail passed over top of Frankly. It's going to be small little things like that that make this ever so just that much funnier.
Yeah,
It's
skipping
another
out on
trick
Sweet
that-
Treat.
Go
Yeah,
ahead.
skipping out on Sweet Treat causes Frankly's trigger for him to leave your party. It just doesn't happen, so he just sticks with you.
Another trick involving hazard respawn glitch, jumping right to the middle of the water. That's a 1-frame jump out of the water to actually make it back up to the land.
Speaking of water, Frankly just went for a swim. I love that. That also doesn't consistently happen. Sometimes he falls in the water, sometimes he doesn't. Which almost leads me to believe that it's RNG dependent, and I'm not really sure why.
I'd like to know that too.
Here I can jump over the Toad NPC, that way when I fall, the game pushes Mario outside of the Toad's hitbox, so it gives him a temporary speed up. Saves a handful of frames.
That bridge skip that you saw right before the village, that's actually one of the few changes, or the mechanic used in it's one of the few changes between the NTSCU and the PAL versions of the game. You can't jump off water in the European version. Really interesting. I don't know why they changed that.
Yeah, I wouldn't know either.
We talk a lot about the differences between Japanese and the other versions, but there's a very small handful of changes that they made between the US and the European releases.
The differences
super
between US and
significant.
JP extend over to about over 100, right?
Yeah, it's pretty
I think
crazy.
so, yeah.
Yeah.
So in this room and 2 rooms from now, I'm going to be using a glitch called the Shrunk Fortress skip. If you use Goombella 3 frames before you walk towards a loading zone, Goombella will actually take priority, and Mario will not activate the loading zone. And if you do this in just far enough to the left, Mario can actually walk past the loading zone, and from here he can walk around the perimeter of the room and trigger the loading zone on the right. So that skips the Bald Cleft fight and the Bristle fight, which you would normally think is required for Chapter 1, but lo and behold, no it's not. That is really hard to do humanly.
Walking around the collision just to the left of the loading zone is what makes that trick not viable RTA.
Yeah, there's invisible walls on like the... If you were to walk up or down where that loading zone is, so you have to go very, very far to the left off screen. Somehow detect whether or not you're far enough to the left, and then get past the invisible walls.
I'm pretty sure no one's even done that once.
It's definitely doable. Not in a run, though, but it's
No.
definitely humanly possible. Gotta love Frankly awkwardly standing next to the Thwomp as well.
Yeah.
He's the co-host.
Yeah. So once we complete the quiz, we unlock the pipe to the Shrunk sewers, and we can go grab the Sun and Moonstone, which are going to be the 2 items that allow us to unlock and enter Hooktail Castle. On the way, I'm going to grab the Multi-Bounce badge. At this point, Multi-Bounce is really only used for 1 fight, and that's going to occur in Chapter 3. But besides that, we don't really need it for anything else.
Multi-bounce lets you jump on each enemy sequentially, by the way.
So you'll see the first use of the Fright Masks here. So I can just use these, and each enemy, when you use a Fright Mask on them, each enemy has a different susceptibility to the Fright Mask. Luckily, these Fuzzies, I don't believe it's perfect, but I believe it's a very high percentage chance that they all run.
It's 95% for each one.
Right. Okay. Also, you saw in the previous room, sometimes depending on my movement, I can cause Goombella to fall through the floor. Again, I don't know why that happens, but it can happen, so.
Some weird stuff I've seen in these rooms are when the fuzzies just doesn't appear, like ends up out of bounds somewhere.
Right, and that's what I think it is. I think it's the fuzzy is doing the same thing Goombella does, where for some reason it ends up, you know, falling through the floor there.
Could be a case of just weird collision.
For sure. So with both of those stones, we can try to backtrack to the castle, but here we're going to end up encountering the gold fuzzy. So after we do these 2 jumps and 2 head bonks following that, there's going to be a bunch of fuzzies that fall from the ceiling. Collectively, they're called the Fuzzy Horde. And the length of the cutscene where they spawn here, and when the battle progresses to the next phase of it, I guess, the length of that cutscene is also random, just like the X-Naut ambush cutscene in the prologue, so I also had to use a brute force script to reduce that time. As well as here, I took damage the last 2 times in order to manipulate the gold fuzzy to attack Mario instead of Goombella. It takes 20 more frames for the fuzzy to attack Goombella, so it was important to have it hit Mario.
I don't know if it's just caused by RNG or what, but there's something, it's happened extremely rarely to some runners where that Fuzzy Horde attack breaks and just hits them like 20 times.
Really?
There's some videos out there. It hasn't happened anytime recently to my knowledge.
Was that all in Japanese?
I have no idea.
Yeah.
Try to pull you up a video sometime.
Well, I think I've seen a different video where they never attacked. Is that also a thing? I don't know what could have caused that.
I've actually had a case similar to that where they were grouped up for about 10 seconds before they attacked me.
Okay.
The longer you play this game, the weirder stuff gets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in that room, I took a diagonal so I could approach the fences, and then I was able to wall boost for a little bit to save some frames. Yeah, so now we're going to backtrack all the way west, obtain Koops in our party, and then head towards Hotel Castle. So there were a bunch of route changes when this TAS was being developed. At first we thought we could skip Koops, but then after I think about 4 route changes or something like that, it turns out we do need Koops.
How many times do you have to do this part?
I think like 5 times or something. It was crazy. Yeah, a lot of route changes because of new discoveries and stuff like that. That's one problem when you have active glitch hunters finding new things, right? There's just so much constant change.
Oh yeah.
But it's worth it. It makes the game faster, and that's what it's all about.
This community might not be as large as others, but still very much active. And
Absolutely.
We're still finding a bunch of new stuff.
By the way, if anybody's curious and would like to be able to participate in the TTYD community, we have a Discord. You can do exclamation mark TTYD Discord, and you can get the invite link to join that. So feel free to chat with us, ask questions. So there I grabbed the mystery item. Normally I use the mystery item for a fight in Chapter 2, but as you'll see, we don't actually go to Chapter 2. Or we don't go to Chapter 2 in the way you're normally intended to. So instead I'm going to be using that for an earlier fight. So after placing the Sun and Moonstone here, you're going to see I activate the switches in a very unconventional way that saves time over using Koops. So I can first jump on top of the left switch and pause to cancel my momentum. That way I can immediately start jumping to the right and hammer the right switch with just frames to spare. I think it's a 4-frame window. And while paused too, I opened up an email. If you receive emails and you don't check an email ever, the game gives you an additional text box that tells you about your email inbox and how you go about checking it. So by checking an email while paused there, that prevents additional text boxes for explaining emails from showing up later.
This jump you're about to see is pretty precise to get over this bridge. You're normally supposed to head up to the top and fly across in plane mode.
Right, yeah. There's several instances where we can skip the use of a plane panel, which can save a significant amount of time, and there's one such case. So in this room, I'm going to grab the Power Bounce badge. So what this allows you to do is, as long as you hit your action commands perfectly, you can continuously do multiple jumps against an enemy in a single turn in battle. We'll go into specifics for the Hooktail fight. There are some limitations with how many jumps you can do. And the mechanics are a little complicated, but I'll be sure to explain those in detail.
That's a cool trick right here.
Yeah, when triggering the red bones, there's a 1-frame window where you can jump after activating him. If you do that and then hammer here right before Koops talks, for some reason, whatever the reason is, you can enter the fight instantly. So that skips the need to hammer all the dull bones and progressively move to the right in order to actually encounter red bones normally. And then here we can end the fight in one turn just by manipulating the mystery item to turn into a Thunder Rage.
The RTA strat for this fight is 2 Fire Flowers, so that mystery is just a little faster. Saves on those animations.
Also saves the use of having to get those extra fire flowers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we can
It's a
skip getting the
relatively
key.
new trick right here.
Yeah, we can skip getting the key for this fight by first going into the alcove in the room to the right. And we can use a Goombella buffer just like we did for Shrunk Fortress skip. And this one's actually different. There's a small gap in the corner of the alcove, so I was able to slip Mario through that gap and then bring him to the center of the room. And again, that just
trick
skips...
actually...
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, I was just gonna say that trick actually used to be performed pretty much exactly the same way as the Shrunk Fortress skips, but it was discovered that there's a crack in that collision,
Right.
which makes it a little faster to do it that way.
Yeah, saves maybe a second on movement. This room's always fun to work on because of the in-game timer. So compared to the previous TAS, I managed to shave off a couple additional frames. So woohoo! So one interesting thing about reaching this point in the game is once I grab the paper mode ability, technically I've met the only prerequisite for the new method of teleporter room early, and that's a glitch by which we can enter Chapter 7 a lot earlier than intended. So if I wanted to, I could leave right now, not defeat Hooktail, and just head straight to Chapter 7. But there's going to be some problems being able to actually reach the Shadow Queen. And I'll go into more detail about that later, but for now, we're going to have to complete the rest of Chapter 1 normally. And right here, I'm going to grab the Attack Effects R badge. That can be used to lower Hooktail's defense. That way, when we do power bounces, we can actually deal damage. So now we're going to have to backtrack to grab a key that's going to allow us to access a higher portion of the castle. For reference, the previous TAS was a 2-hour, 58-second time. I quickly flashed on screen the final time of this TAS. So you could rewind if you want to see it, but I guess just for everybody else, I'll keep it secret just to keep it a little bit more suspenseful. Here, it's actually faster to not use Koops here. Just like how I enter the castle, I can pause on top of the block to reset my momentum and jump straight to the green block. As well as right here, I'm going to hit the switch and then go into paper mode. And then that can actually allow me to do a paper mode cutscene walk. I'm actually covering distance when I normally wouldn't be able to during the cutscene. Then from there, jump to the window, and we can make our way left.
I saw you equip the badges there as well.
Yes, yeah. So now we have Attack Effects R equipped, which again is going to lower Hooktail's defense. And then I also have Power Bounce equipped, so I'll be able to deal a repeated number of jumps for the Hooktail fight. The fun fact by this point, this is the only time that you encounter Miss Mouse. Once we grab the key for the east room, we're also going to grab the honey syrup. Because we only have 5 FP by this point, we actually need to refill our FP for the Hooktail fight. As well here, I can avoid encountering this dull bones by repeatedly pausing and unpausing. There's a 1-frame window where you can move and not encounter the dull bones.
So if I'm not mistaken, the trick you're going to see in this room is actually one of the most precise things like ever in this game.
Yes. There's double-sided collision up here. Yes.
Positioning.
Yeah, there's double-sided collision up there so that there's a gap between 2 pieces of collision. So if you get your Mario's position accurate down to a millionth of a unit, you can just walk straight to the right in between the 2 pieces of collision. And then from there, I was able to make my way straight to the door. So that skips the use of the plane ability. So that was useful for saving a handful of seconds. All of that movement, getting down to a very, very precise millionth of a unit position, just to save a couple seconds. It's worth it. So this fight is a lot, and it might be a little tough for me to explain. The first phase of Hooktail has 20 HP. We wanted to try to end it in 1 turn. There's a limit for every enemy. It varies enemy to enemy, but there's a limit for the maximum number of power bounces you can do. Theoretically, the maximum number of power bounces you can do on Hooktail is 18, but due to her defense not lowering until after the first bounce, I can only do 17 damage max. I can deal 2 damage with Coops, but that brings me to 19, so I also need to get a stage hazard to fall on Hooktail. Also, after the 9th jump onward, up to the 18th, there's a 2/3 chance that the game is going to force me to stop jumping. So I had to manipulate a, what is it? I forget the number. It's like a 1 in 25,000 chance, I think, to get the 18 cap. But then on top of that, I needed a 2% chance at the stage hazard falling on Hooktail. So because of all of those shenanigans, I was able to complete the first phase of the fight in 1 turn. I think the combined probabilities for getting the 18 cap and the bucket drop was a 1 in a million chance, if done humanly. But for the TAS, I was able to control RNG kind of on the go. So since I consumed some FP for the previous power bounce, I used Coops to refill the FP with the honey syrup, and then I can deal 10 more jumps, and Hooktail has been defeated.
I certainly saw a lot of complaining from you on Twitter about this fight.
This fight was awful. You know, a 1 in a million chance is no easy feat, believe it or not. I had a brute force script handle that, but I usually had to let this brute force script run for like 2 days, just due to the such low probability.
Yeah, and due to regrets, you had to do this more than once, right?
I had to do this fight 5 times, I think.
Wow.
Yeah, it was rough, but you know, it was automated, so I could just kind of sit back and watch a TAS for me.
Look at Frankie giving Coops a big old hug.
With incorrect lighting, too. I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, 27 minutes is pretty good for Chapter 1.
Pretty good, pretty good.
Yeah,
what's that
all
like,
right.
What's that like for RTA, a Chapter 1 time?
Like a low 33, really good.
Yeah? Okay.
Pretty sure we could pull a 32. It needs some above average execution though.
Uh-huh. So you may have found it odd and funny that Frankly was following Mario, but now here's Frankly following Peach. And I guess I don't know, maybe he's an X-Naut secretly because he's blending in really well and nobody's seeming to notice him.
He's on everyone's side.
Or is that actually Dupless disguised as Frankly, like later in the game? Ooh.
Oh. Frankly, just a neutral power.
Gotta wonder how Frankly got to the moon when we were on you know, solid ground before.
Oh, he just he went to chapter 7 out of the cannon.
Oh, the cannon? Oh, I thought he knew how to use the teleporter room earlier than Mario does.
Oh, that's true. That's a good point.
Maybe he just jumped really high.
In the Japanese version of the game, that's possible. That's totally plausible. Yeah, if anybody's played TTYD for a handful of hours, I'm sure you might have noticed the partners can be very wacky at times. I think there was a clip, Monado, I saw. You were in the spike room of Hotel Castle right before getting the paper ability. And Koops did an infinite height jump, and then when you open the chest and the cutscene started, Koops fell on top of the really, really tall invisible walls for the spikes, right?
Yeah, he was just floating up there.
Yeah.
There's some weird stuff in the Japanese version where something as little as going through a door just breaks all the partner following physics.
So here I'm doing a modified version of speed swapping, like I've been doing with Mario. If I move up or down for 2 frames, I can then walk in any direction for 14 frames and retain the higher speed value. Yeah, since Peach and Bowser can't jump, I'm going to be doing that method most of the time.
I timed that hallway doing some really imprecise speed swaps like that in RTA, and I saved 10 frames.
That's awesome. Let's go.
Yeah.
Sure, the TAS does it much better.
I don't remember how much time it saves. For the TAS, it might be a handful of seconds for that hallway, is my guess.
I wouldn't be surprised, because speed swaps are typically, what, a 12% speed boost?
Yes, yeah.
Something like that.
Hi, frankly.
Just left him in there. Doesn't even care.
Now we're headed to the first Bowser animation. Like I said, just with Peach, we're going to be doing modified, like, walking speed swaps, I just call them. Walking speed swaps. Just to get Bowser to the end of the hallway as quick as possible. As well as when these doors open, too, you'll see, frankly, yep, he's tagging along, too. This game is 60 frames per second. So I don't know why this is the case, but in a little bit, Kammy Koopa is going to ask Bowser whether or not he likes fried eggs. It's actually 1 frame faster to say that he does not like fried eggs. So there's the lore for you. Bowser he does not like them.
Ed and I were onto something then, because we'd always say we don't like fried eggs because we both hate fried eggs. So...
Yeah. But otherwise, like, humanly, it doesn't matter what you pick there.
Right.
So.
Interestingly, I've since come around on fried eggs. I think they're alright.
I'm trying to think if I've had a fried egg. That's not what you find in a bowl of ramen, correct? That's a boiled egg?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
I'd imagine there's plenty of ways to prepare it.
Yeah, I don't know if I've had a fried egg.
Yeah, poached sounds right. Isn't that where, like, you crack it open in the water?
Yes, yeah. So here we're gonna grab a Mega Rush P. Instead of using the normal strategies I have in previous TASes of getting Mario into peril, it's actually going to be a little bit easier and faster to get Yoshi into peril. and I'll explain more about how that's done later into the run.
Yeah, this was a really interesting route change, and it really only affects any percent of the peril partner strategies right now. But it makes some of the fights, especially in the endgame, a little more consistent, Arthur.
Before, when Mario grabbed Mega P from Kreutz's yard, right next to his house, you may have noticed that Mario was doing a really weird spin animation outside when he unspun from the little gap that he came through. Those are unspin jumps. And he was doing that to negate the slowdown after you release R after doing the paper mode. That's also going to be used for the new TRE method coming up in, what, about 20 minutes, maybe?
A little less than that.
Less than that, yeah. But yeah, thank you. I forgot to explain that.
Yeah, Chris.
I like that jump right there onto the moving platform.
Oh yeah, that's faster than going through the metal bars, yeah, by a handful of frames. So here what I do, so I went into paper mode up against the yellow block, then I unspinned, jumped, and used an item all on the same frame. That buffers a jump, and then when I use the jump, when I use the item, it resets my jump midair and causes me to do a second jump. Then my hitbox resets, it grows. So even though I'm close to the yellow block when rising, my hitbox grows such that when I fall back down, the hitbox is big enough to detect that Mario's landing on top of the yellow block. So he's able to, from there, reach the 1,000-year door without having to use the airplane panel. That saves a handful of seconds.
No one's yet pulled one of those off in real time just because of the inputs required in the pause menu.
You really have to use that item fast. You don't have a big window. I'm not sure how big the window is, but...
Maybe I'm optimistic, but I have a feeling one day someone's gonna at least get one of those.
Yeah.
Probably not as outside the realm of possibility as some of the other stuff you've already seen.
Right.
I want to see the Dull Bones buffer outside of the Ms. Mao's room. I want to see that done humanly. 7 frame perfect pauses in a row.
I don't know if the video still exists, but the runner I'm Dead got like 5 of them just by mashing.
Oh, really?
So,
nice.
I'd imagine if like people actually tried it, someone would pull it off.
I love how for this cutscene you can hear the Franklin that's following us. You can hear him jumping outside, like behind the building. And now he's back.
Our boy is back.
Yeah, it's funny because it looks like he just walks out of the house with you, but it's actually 2 different Franklins.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's stuck on the other side of the wall, right?
Correct, yeah. So let me try to explain the route a little bit more. To reach the end of the game, we're going to have to use a trick called Palace Skip. And Palace Skip requires Yoshi, so that means we have to get him from Chapter 3. In order to go to Chapter 3, we have to perform a glitch called Blimp Ticket Skip. To perform Blimp Ticket Skip, I have to set up an email that spawns in North Rogueport, and that email only spawns if you complete the end of Chapter 6. So, because I need to reach the end of Chapter 6, I need to unlock the blue warp pipe to reach the end of Chapter 6. To activate that blue warp pipe and ground pound on the blue switch that unlocks it, I need the super boots. And you obtain those from the Great Tree in Chapter 2. But we can skip a large portion of Chapter 2 and not endure most of the cutscenes by first doing Teleporter Room early to reach a Chapter 7 state. And now, what we could have done, right, is we could have gotten Paper Mode mid-Chapter 1. This is another use of Hazard Respawn, by the way, to make our way left. I could have gotten Paper Mode in Chapter 1 and left right away, go to Chapter 7, and then try to grab the Super Boots. But the passageway to the Chapter 2 pipe would be blocked. The panel would not have been removed by Punio like it was less than a minute ago when we talked to Punio. There is a small gap where you can squeeze Mario behind that panel to get to the pipe, but you can't do that the same way backwards. So we have to unlock that entranceway first, so we have to complete Chapter 1 normally. And also here, we can use an unspin jump in a very precise on the very precise edge of the door frame to squeeze Mario inside a gap and make our way inside the teleporter room earlier than intended. So now we can complete some of Chapter 7.
That unspin jump you just saw, while RTA viable and it's used in RTA runs, is extremely precise.
Yeah, it cannot be done that fast. Can you guys hear me? Hello? Testing.
Yeah.
All right, sorry about that. We got to resync the
you're
video. My internet just cut out.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
fine.
Can you guys go to 3950 in the video?
Yep.
It doesn't normally happen. Sorry about that, everyone.
You're good.
Okay, are you both lined up? 3950?
Mhm.
Okay,
Mario's jumping midair, right?
Yes. 3, 2, 1, go. Okay, so we should be back.
Probably let people know about the sequence position, the red note, right?
Yeah, so the main reason that we're visiting Chapter 7 this time is because we want to try to skip as much of Chapter 2 as we can. So we read the red note, which puts us in a Chapter 7 state. Before we read that, we're not being treated as if we're in Chapter 7, but once we read that note, now we are officially in a Chapter 7 state.
You're gonna have to fix the video again.
Oh, did it freeze? Ah, sorry about that.
For
Now we should be good. Sorry about that. Sorry, I apologize for the scuffed stream. So once we read the red note, we're in a Chapter 7 state, then we can grab the card key in Grotus's room. Now we can leave. Our next main goal, again, is to get the Super Boots. So we're going to head towards the Great Tree and go grab them.
So yeah, now the game thinks that we've beaten Chapter 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Since we read the red note.
Right.
Or interacted with the red note.
Here, I use Coop's far enough left so when I activate him, there's an extra delay. That allows me to open the teleporter room door while Mario's about to jump to use Coop's. That gives us something called jump storage, where certain flags for Mario's jump are initialized but not reset afterwards. So what we can do is step up onto a higher surface, and that grants us Y velocity, and the incorrectly reset flags allows us to maintain that velocity constantly, which basically grants us infinite height. So we can use that to jump all the way to the right side of the room. As well as for this room, we used a reverse engineering RNG script to be able to predict when these Mega Rush Ps could show up in battle. Then I was able to get RNG to align with that, so we're able to get 2 Mega Rush P drops from both of these fights, and I can just use Fright Masks to get them over quickly. As well as right here, I level up Beef P in order to be able to afford more badges later.
Do you think that jump storage by the teleporter room is viable or not?
Humanly?
Yeah.
I don't think so. It seemed very hard to pull off for me. I was having a lot of trouble getting Koops in the right position, and I don't quite know why. But
I'm pretty sure, because you can't do that with every door. I'm pretty sure
it's just
it's
that
only
door.
it's.
Yeah.
I think it's only doors that were once locked from the outside, because I think you can do it on Bobbery's door as well.
You might be right there, yeah.
There's like an extra frame of something.
Mm-hmm. I wonder if it takes that extra frame to perform a check to see if you unlock the door or not, I guess. Not sure.
So, for all intents and purposes, the Great Tree's already cleared, because you read that red note in Chapter 7.
Right. So, all the pipes are unlocked, we can breeze right through. One thing you will notice in a little bit is that the jabby fights are actually independent of your sequence position. So even though we're past Chapter 2, we never fought the jabbies, so their hive is still going to be there. So we're going to have to use something called Jabby Hive Skip in order to get past them. So I'm going to go into paper mode against the top left corner in a precise position, and then pause buffer a jump and unspin, so that when I unpause, I get pushed out of bounds by the loading zone collision. And that allows me to get behind the hive after walking along the perimeter of the room, and then I can trigger the loading zone.
It's important to note that not every loading zone has that type of collision behind it. It's only specific rooms.
Yeah.
Right.
Some loading zones don't even have walls at all. You just walk right out of bounds.
Uh-huh.
They were very inconsistent with how they set them up. Now these super boots actually do revert the game back to chapter 2.
Yeah, since they're a sequence point.
The funny thing about that, you're going to notice when we go into the previous room here, because we're now being treated as if we're mid-chapter 2, the jabbies come out, and we get kicked out immediately because we don't have any punies with us. And getting kicked out like that is actually faster than walking across the room normally. So, thanks for that, game. Small little time save because of that.
Yeah, and this is all we have to be in chapter 2 for, so he's heading back out now.
Yeah, so now that we have the super boots, that's the main thing we need in order to be able to visit chapter 6. And again, we visit chapter 6 because that's going to allow us to set up for a Blimp ticket skip in preparation to go get Yoshi.
There's so many prerequisites to get there.
Yeah. There's so many...
If you're wondering...
Sorry, you can go.
I was gonna say, if you're wondering, why don't we just not do Palace Skip in Chapter 8, because getting Yoshi takes such a long time. Palace Skip saves well over an hour, probably over 80 minutes. So it's definitely something that you can't really route out.
Yeah.
Especially skipping Yoshi is even more complicated.
Yeah, there's so many... I don't know, it's the entire sequence leading up to Blimp ticket skip, and it's... Like, I was trying to reply to somebody commenting on YouTube today. They were trying to ask why does Palace Skip save so much time? So I had to say, oh, well, Palace Skip initially, skips sections of the palace, which means you don't need the Ultra Boots. And then it skips Riddle Tower, so you don't need Bobbery, you don't need Vivian, you don't need Boat Mode. And because you don't need Bobbery and, the list goes on and on. It's just this huge cascade of just... It's like a butterfly effect, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It's interesting because in recent years we have been able to skip more of those things, and then we'll not do Palace Skip, and it wouldn't lose as much time, but it's still way faster to do Palace Skip.
Yeah. Sorry, yeah, domino effect is a better way of putting it, you're right. So, our ultimate goal here is to grab the Crystal Star. To grab the Crystal Star, normally you need the Ultra Boots, but what we're going to do is we're going to set up a Super Jump, and again, that's the trick by which you can gain infinite height. The first thing we're going to do here is read the note on the Sanctum. This places us in a post-chapter... Well, I should say late Chapter 6 state. This way, I can enter the Excess Express and be able to leave at any point I want. If I weren't... and we need to enter the Excess Express in order to set up jump storage in preparation for the infinite height jump. If I did not read that red note, or the Sanctum note, sorry, and then I enter the train, it would actually start Chapter 6 from the very beginning, which would lose a lot of time. So, because I read the note, I'm free to enter the train and leave the train whenever I want. But also, there's an email if you enter the train after, by the point you get to the Sanctum here. So, using that email, I can use Coops right before walking into the cutscene, and that grants me jump storage. So, now, when I enter the Sanctum, and I step up onto a higher ledge and have Y velocity, the flags that aren't reset correctly are going to allow us to maintain that velocity constantly, and I'll be able to gain infinite height to reach the Crystal Star. Also here, if you jump when you have jump storage on flat ground, then you immediately lose the jump storage state, so I have to do walking speed swaps here.
Yeah, think about that email too, present in the train. That's actually a reason why US is actually faster, because that email location is not currently there on JP. So you would actually have to go out of your way to make an additional file for jump storage if you were doing RTA.
Yeah, that definitely saves a tremendous amount of time, not having to manage a second save file and go to the main menu 3 times.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so to actually put this jump storage into use, you need to go up a step, and very luckily there's a step right here in the sanctum.
Mm-hmm. So once we hit a switch off screen, normally you can see it when you're that high up, but yeah, hit that switch, reveals a pipe, and now we can enter the back room and grab the crystal star. Somebody was asking about the quality of the game. So this task was created in Dolphin Emulator, and there's quality settings that you can change at will. So the video that I have uploaded here, this is in 4K. I'm only playing the 1080p version. But yeah, through Dolphin, it really raises the quality of the game substantially.
Yeah.
Yeah, you probably won't get this kind of quality off a console unless maybe you have some fancy cables and OSSC or something. It's pretty expensive.
This game generally just holds up very well too. Graphically.
There's an out of bounds there too. Which actually, when you fall and respawn, it places you in the center of the room. So that skips a little bit of movement time to walk from the crystal star to the center of the room.
Any idea why it puts you in the center and not by the door?
You know, we were thinking about that. We think it has something to do with the fact that you grabbed the crystal star and you went to... It was... Like, it's almost like it reloads the room or something like that after you grab the crystal star. But that's weird. That caught us off guard. Like, that clip, that out-of-bounds clip can be done humanly, but it really only saves, I think, a little bit more than a second when done optimally, so by no means would that be done in RTA.
Right.
Probably not something you could do quickly enough to save time.
Each swaps. So funnily enough, 50 minutes into the game, this is the last Peach intermission that we're going to be watching.
This run's probably about 10 minutes ahead of a good RTA run. Maybe a little more.
This is really random trivia, but I think at some point I tried to calculate, based on the length of Peach's emails and how long she takes to type during these intermissions, I was trying to calculate how many words per minute she types. And it varies, you know, intermission to intermission, but I think on average she types somewhere around 900 words per minute, apparently. At least from what I calculated.
Yeah, and specifically in this intermission, you can actually idle on a text box and slow her down. So that's the one oddity if you're calculating that.
So these Bowser intermissions are like the one you'll see in a bit. They're really fun to optimize. Like the 2D Mario Bowser sections, they're really fun. I'm sure they're fun casually too, but even when, you know, you're tassing it super slow, it's still a blast. Oh yeah, I guess if you're playing the Japanese version of the game, she types at a lower characters per minute, but yeah.
with the amount of reverse engineering we've done in this game, it's only a matter of time until someone makes a full like 8-world Mario game with these Bowser stages.
Yeah.
Also, due to the movement that Mario did with Bowser there, he was actually able to skip over taking damage on one of the fire bars there.
Yeah, the second fire bar, that's almost impossible to avoid. And some of the mechanics for Bowser for this intermission are a little weird. To skip that fire bar, I had to jump into it before doing the actual jump over the fire bar, and I don't really know why that had an effect or why that specifically worked, but I don't know, through some sequence of button presses, I somehow skipped over it. It took like an hour to work on, but it was pretty hype.
Saving frames.
Oh yeah. I love how at this point in the game, like you don't even know who Bowser just. You're gonna find there's you've never seen this game before. The ending cutscene with the Shadow Queen. There's going to be so many characters in the Paper Mario universe that you've just never seen before, because we never meet them. So this trick coming up here, this is called Blimp Ticket Skip, and this is the reason that we can get Yoshi without having to complete all of Chapter 2. So I can do an unspin clip to reach the train tracks out of bounds by jumping through a gap near the door. Then I was able to set Koops up far enough to the left so he activates with a 1-frame delay when I enter the cutscene. That gives me jump storage, and I can step up onto the train track rail to gain Y velocity, and then super jump infinitely high all the way to the blimp in the background.
Yeah, it's very cool that you can interact with that sort of stuff in the background when you're still technically in the foreground.
Yeah.
I call that jump gamer jump.
Yeah, people were calling it that during my premiere on my Twitch channel last Friday. I didn't know it was called that before, but, you know, I think it's a fitting name.
Yeah. I remember I bet Shrunk to do it in one of his runs. He got it, and then I tier 2 subbed to him.
Yeah, now we're leaving. We're done. No, so
do anything for the money.
When you enter Glitzville for the first time, there's a certain flag set that recognizes that it's your first time entering the chapter. But just entering Glitzville doesn't actually put us in a Chapter 3 state, so we're actually in a weird position where we actually can't do any fights. We can't get past the guard in the lobby, and we can't sign up for any fights. So we have to reset that flag, and we have to leave and then re-enter Glitzville, and now we'll be able to sign up for fights. Also, what's weird, on the US version of the game, the animation of the blimp returning back to the landing platform in Rogueport, that animation is 7 seconds shorter in the US and PAL version of the game compared to the Japanese version. I don't know why. The developers just sped it up
for some reason.
So, because we swapped to the US version of the game, I got a free 14 seconds of time save.
Yeah, that's kind of weird.
You can also just open the door behind the guard there. You just angle it right.
Yeah, if you face away.
Yeah.
Only possible on certain sequence positions.
Right.
Right. Trackable.
Yeah, so if you've never experienced the misfortune that is Chapter 3, so you have to sign up for a bunch of fights and fight your way up the rank to ultimately reach, in this route, rank 10, which is a fight against the Armored Harriers, and after that point we'll be able to get Yoshi. In order to progress to these higher ranks, we not only have to beat the enemy, but we also have to meet what's called, I don't know, it's just called a condition. These conditions might range from let your opponent damage you 5 times, or win the fight in 5 turns or less, or win the fight before taking 20 points of damage, so we also have to satisfy that. Also, our route called for additional items that we didn't have by this point. We needed 5 extra Fright Masks, and we needed to collect a point swap. And luckily, what we managed to do is that we were able to abuse a mechanic with the audience members, and we were able to guarantee that they would throw the items that we need at us. I guess for the next fight, I'll go into more detail about how that all works. But that was a really fun process to work on, and I love how quick it is now.
Right, and since those conditions are all RNG, you can imagine that it's a nightmare for RTA runners sometimes.
Yep.
My PB lost 3 minutes here.
Yeah.
That'll happen.
Yeah, you can get really screwed out by some conditions. You get some of the worst ones all in a row. Like, don't attack for the first 3 turns, like, 4 times. It's one of the worst ones.
Alright, so I guess for anybody that doesn't want to hear nerd talk, cover your ears for the next 30 seconds. I'm going to discuss some of the mechanics behind how the audience works for these item throws. Also, this fight and the Pokey fight afterwards, I was not at a good RNG value in order to be able to get the audience to throw an item at me, so I had to skip it for those fights. So for the audiences, it actually depends what audience members we get, which I guess species of characters show up in our audience. So the first thing that happens when you load up a battle is the game picks the number of different types of audience members or different species to spawn in your battle. So for example, the game might just say, oh, I'm just going to pick one audience member type. It's going to be just Koopa Troopas. So then after that point, no matter what it calculates, your audience will only have Koopa Troopas. Or just Koopas. They wouldn't be Koopa Troopas, whatever. So it determines the number of types of audience members. Then it takes the number of audience members from your previous fight and then fluctuates it a bit, up or down. And then after that, it then determines a number between 0 and 3 inclusive, so 0, 1, 2, or 3, which represents the number of possible items that can be thrown on the first turn of the battle. So that means if you were to just sit for a really long amount of time, you could either get 0, 1, 2, or 3 items to be thrown at you. It's an 80% chance that 0 items will be thrown. It's a 10% chance that 1 item will be thrown, and then it's a 5% and a 5% chance that 2 or 3 items could be thrown at you. So we have all that down now, and JD Aster is a community member who looked into all of that, and he also provided us with a document that represents the different items that audience members can throw. And conveniently, it's only Shy Guys, but Shy Guys can throw Fright Masks and point swaps. So when we're actually inside a battle, every frame, the game calculates whether or not the item is going to be thrown on that given frame. And this calculation is, it varies depending on how many items have previously been thrown. Like you just saw there for the first item spawning, every frame is a 1 in 1,800 chance of spawning. If one item has been thrown and you're trying to get the second item and the second item is allowed to spawn, then it's a 1 in 6,000 chance every frame. If you've gotten 2 items thrown already and you're trying to get and are allowed to get the third item in battle, it's a 1 in 30,000 chance every frame. That's really low probability, and because of that, you won't see 3 items being thrown. And actually, the only time you'll see 2 items being thrown in this TAS was for the first fight in Chapter 3, the Goomba fight, just because I got lucky there. And then on top of that, after that calculation, that 1 in 1,800 calculation, that's the point at which the game determines, okay, we're going to throw an item. Then what it does is it performs 1,000 switches of audience member positions. So there might be, I don't know, an audience member in the first seat and the last seat. And then it'll switch those. And then it'll switch 2 other audience members and then 2 others. It's going to do that a total of 1,000 times. So now the audience members are in a randomized order in some list. Then it starts looking at the beginning of that randomized list until it finds the first audience member that's able to throw items. For example, Piranha Plants actually cannot throw items here. So even if it randomized the audience members and a Piranha Plants first, it skipped over it and allowed a Shy Guy to spawn an item. then what it does, here's the final piece to the puzzle. After it does that, then what it does is there are certain weights attached to all the different items that each audience member can throw. And it just so happens that fright masks and point swaps are both a 5% chance of spawning. So then what the game does is it picks a number between 0 and 199, I think. That's the sum of all the different weights for the Shy Guy items. And then depending on what that random number is, that's the item that spawns. That random number represents the weight, and that weight will correspond to which item is thrown. So I hope that made sense. That was a lot to explain. If you're curious and want to go into more detail, I have a video on my YouTube channel that discusses it. But it's really cool, some of the stuff that we can do when you really reverse engineer a game like this.
I just want to say a lot of the development you see, especially at the 1,000-Year Door speedrun community, it happens in the field, because obviously you're going to be doing skips to skip part of the game, like glitches and tricks, but JD Aster is the expert when it comes to 1,000-Year Door battles and the battle mechanics.
Yeah, absolutely.
So he played a big role in figuring this stuff out.
We have a couple more fights here. I believe the punk rocks here, this is the last fight before I have grabbed all the items I need. And then after that, I can just use fright masks for the remaining fights. There we have it. So that's the last fright mask that we need. So by the time that we leave the chapter, we're going to have 5 fright masks and 1 point swap. No, sorry, just kidding. We only need 3 when we leave. 3 fright masks and 1 point swap, my bad. So we have 2 more fights, and we're going to use 2 more fright masks. And then we'll be set.
If you watch a lot of RTA, you notice we typically don't fright mask a lot of these enemies, just because the odds of them all running away are pretty low.
Right.
Yeah, it's only used on a good handful of fights, just due to that. Some of them have a pretty high chance, and then some of them just have 100% chance of running, I believe. Like the Pokies, as an example of that.
Yeah, those clefts that you just saw are 40% each, so...
The dry bones that you
40.
saw at the... Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was gonna say just 40% times 3, it's not really gonna happen often RTA that all 3 of them run.
Yeah.
Right.
The reason that we used multi-bounce on the Dull Bones fight early on is, I believe that using multi-bounce is actually a tiny bit faster than using fright masks, but also, the susceptibility for all 3 Dull Bones for a fright mask is 1 in 1,000. So
Yeah, they each have a 10% chance to run.
yeah. So that would have been a little difficult to manage. Not something that would be impossible per se, but just difficult.
Yeah, you saw
Right.
the Hooktail fight. Elliot
Yeah.
can do some crazy
I
stuff
got
with the
this.
RNG.
I got it.
Might also notice whenever Mario's in the locker room waiting for his fight, you have to wait for the guard to come in. If you perform some specific actions such as swinging your hammer, it'll actually delay the guard from coming in.
Yeah, if you jump, hammer, or go into paper mode, those all delay the guard. So you cannot do anything other than interact with the lockers, like open them, and walk around. That's it.
Right.
I think partner actions do as well. I'm not
Yes,
sure.
yeah, those do delay the guard too. I forgot about that. And pausing too, obviously.
Right.
So that was the last fight that he has to win here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Gonna enter this next one up here and just run away.
yeah, the
Shout out
next-
to Jillian's twin sister.
Oh yeah, I love this part. Yeah, so Jolene shows up on the gamepad there because the game detects that we're in a post-Chapter 3 state. So it thinks that Grubba has been defeated and he's been Well, he's yeah, whatever. We crushed him in battle and with the Crystal Star. But so she shows up with the gamepad, but because there are flags present that detect this is the first time we're fighting the Armored Harriers, Jolene also shows up with that cutscene with the bat for the bats fight.
Why don't any of the other toads in this game balance a banana on their glasses?
Say that again?
Why don't any of the other toads in this game balance a banana on their glasses?
Bounce a banana on their glasses. Wait, does she have that?
It's
No,
her
it's just
hair.
her
It's
hair.
a banana.
Oh, wait. Oh, I'm not gonna get a chance to see a second look at that, am I? I've never noticed that.
Yeah, so
her
running
hair
from
was
this
like a
fight gets you
banana.
Yoshi. And Yoshi's the reason we did all this ranked fight stuff. Including
Yeah.
just the pretty convoluted process of getting to Chapter 3.
Right. Yeah, it doesn't matter what my condition was. I think my condition was let my opponent damage me 5 times or something. But you don't have to follow it. You can just run away, and we get Yoshi. So normally Yoshi's color is based on a timer that starts when you obtain the Yoshi egg and the time when it hatches right now. Because we never grab the Yoshi egg, it instead relies on the game's in-game global timer. But it's only a range of 20 minutes, so it's a time between like 0 seconds and 19 minutes and 59 seconds, whatever. So after you take 1 hour and 10 minutes modulo by 20, we're in like the 9 to 11 minute mark, I believe, and that spawns a blue Yoshi.
Yeah, the way it works casually is the game takes a note of the in-game timer when you pick up the Yoshi egg, and then when Yoshi hatches, it subtracts whatever time it took note of from the current in-game time, but because he never goes and picks up the egg normally, it just subtracts 0.
That makes sense. Yeah, so now that we have Yoshi, that's the last thing we need to be able to set up Palace Skip. So now what we're going to do is focus on getting to Chapter 8. The only way to get to Chapter 8 is to complete Chapter 7 normally. So that's what we're going to try to do. We're going to focus on getting to the X-Naut base and fight Magnus von Grapple, and then go enter the 1,000-Year Door.
Farewell to friend.
And right, yeah, because we grabbed Yoshi, the game only allows you to have... well, that's not the reason. I think because normally at that point, the Yoshi egg actually replaced Frankly, but the image of Frankly didn't change. Like, the texture didn't update. So then when we actually obtain Yoshi, it removes the follower, so Frankly disappears.
Yeah, exactly. The current follower you have out, it overrides whatever new ones you would obtain. But once it's set to go away, then you lose it.
And then for this fight too, I manipulated another Mega Rush P. So having this 4th Mega Rush P is going to allow us to complete fights much faster in a fewer number of turns than we would otherwise. And you'll see it earliest with the Magnus von Grapple 2.0 at the end of Chapter 7.
It's a really cool jump on the save block, by the way.
Right,
Yeah,
yeah,
and the
that's
fact
pretty
that-
precise.
The fact that he clips through the door again instead of going through it, it's actually faster to do that.
Yeah, it's just like Blue House Skip in Paper Mario 64. For the TAS I made for Paper Mario 64, we found that it was faster to do Blue House Skip again instead of entering the door normally, because the animation takes too long. So now we're going to be setting up for another wacky glitch. This is called Elevator Skip, and this is going to skip the normally required quiz in a higher level of the fortress to be able to unlock a different elevator. But first I'm going to manipulate an item drop. I need to bring it farther to the left, so I use Koops to bring it over, and then activate an elevator panel, so that causes the item to drop. Koops stops grabbing it. Then I manipulate a Zux off screen to approach Mario, and then I use Goombella right before picking up the item. The Zux hits me, and now I have something called text storage. I'll be able to walk around while having this text box on screen, and closing out of this text box is going to cause some interesting side effects that we'll see in a bit. As well, in this fight, I have to get Yoshi into peril in preparation for the Magnus fight. That way, the Mega Rush Ps will activate, and Yoshi will be able to deal a buttload of damage. So now we're going to leave. I'm going to push Yoshi out of bounds, get him to fall. If I close the text box and then use Yoshi, it causes me to warp to his Y position, so I'm able to fall beneath the floor and reach a portion of the fortress that you would normally only be able to reach after completing the quiz for the elevator key. As well here, when you enter the room, there's a platform cycle that I can actually catch without resetting the cycle by barely jumping to the first cycle's lit up tiles when it swings back around. And then there, when the HP drain landed on me, I used Yoshi right before it landed on me. So now I have jump storage again, and in the next room, I'll be able to use this to set up a super jump and gain infinite height to bypass a really tall invisible wall, which skips the need to go into the background of the factory room.
That elevator skip that you saw a couple of rooms ago, we used that RTA, but in different categories.
Because there's
where you can
Yeah,
actually
we're
obtain text storage a bit easier.
So
that item drop.
here I do some shenanigans to bring the card key far enough left so that it starts falling off the platform. Use Yoshi right before it lands on me. Now I have jump storage again, and I can super jump all the way up to the door to the right, which skips going into the background.
Yeah, that second one's pretty insane right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was not expecting that when I watched the initial reveal.
That saves about 20 seconds overall, just due to, again, like the whole domino effect. Because we need Coops for that glitch, then we can't do Coop Skip. Because we can't do Coop Skip, that causes all these different fluctuations in the route. Just for that factory room, that probably saves close to 40 seconds, but due to route implications, it only saves 20 overall. So because Yoshi's in peril, I can swap to him right away, charge up the ground pound meter last frame possible, and then do 4 ground pounds, and, oh, sorry, the video froze.
The video.
Sorry. Sorry, you missed it. I ground pounded on Magnus 4 times in a row, sorry. Sorry, the window capture is really finicky when I have a video full screened for some reason. So something must have popped up on, that took the window out of focus, so my bad.
Can you stop cheating in your task, man?
I'm splicing, I'm sorry. I don't remember exactly how much the ground pounds did, but because it killed Magnus, then it means the 4 ground pounds did more than 70 damage. I don't know exactly, though, I forget, sorry.
You'll see more of the pale ground pounds coming up in a little bit.
Does Magnus have 2 defense, I believe?
Yes, he does.
Okay, so the 4 Mega Rushes would raise his Yoshi's attack power by 20, but Yoshi has an initial damage of 1, so that's 21 minus the 2 defense from Magnus, so Yoshi did 19, 18, 17, and 16 for the damage, I believe.
Sounds about right.
Oh, wait, they all do the same damage? Wait, do they?
No, they don't.
Yeah, they decrease. That's what I thought. Sadly, this will be the last Bowser intermission, last intermission period that we get to watch.
Yeah, unfortunately, Peach died.
Everyone dies, you know.
Yeah. we saw the last of her in the last intermission. Never to be seen again.
Alright, so now that we're back to Mario's perspective, all the elevators are locked. We are required to go talk to Tech first, the supercomputer that Peach was flirting with. No. So we'll head down there, speak with Tech, and then he's gonna have us evacuate out of the X-Naut Fortress.
Yeah, you can't actually get to the teleporter room until you go and talk to Tech.
So one interesting thing you're going to see during this cutscene is the static on screen. One interesting thing about that is that to determine this seemingly random static, the game actually uses the RNG algorithm. It's not quite calling RNG per pixel, but it's calling it every few pixels, such that it's using and calling the RNG function upwards of 30,000 times per second. I'm not a game developer, but that seems like a very inefficient way to try to generate a random static pattern.
I'd be really interested
fun
to see
facts.
what that one looks like if you lock the RNG value, kind of like the X-Nauts.
Ah, I should do
know
that.
why they decided to do that.
I could test that
Like, if I
pretty
could ask the
quickly.
developer.
Oh, there's so many questions we would ask if we could talk to one of the developers. I would love to have a conversation with one.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
how many interns they had.
Exactly. Yeah, are your interns the ones that handled Yoshi teleporting and are the reason that Palace Skip is a thing, or... Okay, so now that we're able to leave Chapter 7, we're able to finally head towards Chapter 8.
Yeah, it's a running joke in the 1,000-year-door speedrunning community that this game was developed by a bunch of interns at Intelligent Systems, and that's why there's a bunch of broken stuff and all the inconsistencies.
There's so many inconsistencies with stuff in this game.
Yeah, somebody mentioned trying to draw pixel art out of that the static in that screen. So one of the problems is just because that static is drawn on every frame. If we were to possibly draw something, it would only be for one frame. And even in that event, you know, we don't believe that the RNG is called per pixel, so it could be very hard to be able to draw something that's discernible. But it, you know, it's something to think about. It could be a cool little project to work on.
He actually got jump storage there and immediately got rid of it by hopping off Yoshi right when he hit the email. The jump storage wasn't actually useful, it was just faster to skip that hopping off Yoshi animation.
Yeah. Normally we get to this pipe here by using Flurry to blow the panel away. But we don't have Flurry, right? We skipped we skipped most of Chapter 2, including the Flurry, you know, acquisition sequence. So I was able to use a very precise jump to land on top of the boat panel, and then from there, take the pipe down to the Pit of 100 Trials room, and then make our way to the 1,000-year door. Kumo has a good point. You know, a lot of these tricks, at this point, it's surprising that some of these have been found, because some of them are very, very complicated. That's pretty fair.
Yeah, like
Not everything, though.
Not everything, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, chapter
Like, if you're just
chapter
playing this
4.
game
Sorry.
No, you go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, chapter 4, if you grab Vivian, I believe this is the cutscene that Ada is referring to. On the Japanese version of the game, when you obtain Vivian, anytime during the cutscene, you can pause. I don't really know why, but depending on when you pause, that can actually cause the game to just soft lock.
My favorite one's the one when you talk to Zesty, and if you just mash B for like 14 menu iterations, the game just soft locks.
Really? Is this inside
Really?
her house?
Oh yeah. I'll send you a
What is
video
that?
if you haven't seen Amelia.
Okay.
Oh yeah, because there's so many steps to go with Palace Skip. It's not just one individual glitch.
It is interesting to note that there are so many variations of Palace Skip, but, you know, really they all ultimately arose just because of Yoshi teleporting, which in itself
Right.
was pretty hard to discover, and it's not necessarily bad programming. Yeah.
Yeah, and you can also soft lock the game within like the first 4 seconds from just the save prompt that shows up.
Actually, oh, sorry, you can go.
We actually have a category on the extensions leaderboard called Soft Lock RTA, and it's under 3 seconds.
Ada, there actually is one more glitch with Vivian. If you use Vivian, I believe right before you touch a star piece, it can actually cause the star piece to fly really high into the air. I forget how exactly it works, but I know that it's a thing.
You've seen the one where you do the EVT overflow or whatever, and then like Vivian gets replaced by a star piece.
I don't know if I've seen that specific use,
No,
but I believe it.
Yeah, there's some funny stuff. There's a lot of funny, useless stuff in this game, and the EVT overload that I alluded to is something that could actually, or it actually does have uses, just not with Vivian.
Yeah, so back in that previous room, it's normally required that you have tube mode to get past those fire bars, but you can just barely jump around the edge of them.
I think a lot of people use Vivian there casually too.
Yeah. RTA, what you would do there in an 80% speedrun is actually lure the Ember over, shoot Coops out at a specific spot to hit the Ember, and then with iframes, you would walk through the fire bars to get around it.
So, how lucky did you just get right here, Malia?
I think it's only a 2% chance, so it's not too bad. That's not incredibly taxing or anything to pull that off.
You want to explain how Showstopper works?
Yeah, sure. So, like every enemy, just like with Fright Masks, every enemy has a certain susceptibility to Showstopper. And normally what you're supposed to do with Showstopper is you're supposed to hit the action commands. So if you fail all the action commands, then Showstopper is like 50% as effective. So, I don't know, if an enemy is 50% susceptible to Showstopper, then failing all the action commands drops that percentage down to 25. And then every time you hit a sequence of action commands and it goes to the next sequence of button presses, it raises the percentage chance by 10 additional percent. But, you know, in the attempt to save as much time as possible, we want to try to fail the action commands immediately. So because of that, yeah, all of those dry bones and the dark bones, it comes down to a 2%. That's not going to be the last time that you see Showstopper, and 2% is very graceful. It's really graceful compared to the next fight that I use it on, and I'll keep it a secret for now, but you're in for a surprise if you haven't seen it already.
No way to skip this endless room.
There is actually, but it's slower.
Purpose. Oh yeah, I do remember now.
Yeah.
That's like actually really new.
Does it have to do with EFF overflow?
It's EVTs, but yes.
Yeah, it's the EVT one.
Okay.
I always get confused with them. But yeah. I guess it just prevents the script from loading. I forget the technicalities of it, but...
I think the EVT overload's being used in all Crystal Stars runs right now in the Great Tree.
Yes, it is.
Oh, for the blue cage, I'd assume?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
EFFs you can think of as particle effects. That's a different thing in TTYD. EVTs are basically like the scripts that the game runs. And like TTYD has its own kind of like scripting language for EVTs. Yeah, those are mutually exclusive things.
Here's the big room.
Alright, this is the palace skip room. I'm first going to encounter the left ember and manipulate an item drop. I don't care what the item is, I just need an item to appear. Then once I leave from the battle, I'm going to swap to Goombella, set her far enough away so that when I use her right before grabbing the item, she activates with a 1-frame delay. This gives me text storage, and I can enter the battle with a text box, so when I run from this battle, I'll be able to walk around with this text box on screen. Then I'm going to walk all the way to the left, swap to Yoshi, push him out of bounds, and then Yoshi teleport downwards. There's a spring that's still loaded for an unloaded portion of this room, so I can use that spring to land back on the seam of the room. I'm going to set Koops up on the edge of the Ember's walking zone here, and I pause to equip badges during that point too. You can use the spring to get behind the door on the left side, jump towards the top left corner of the room. So now I'm midair in the top left corner of the room. I'm going to run from this battle. In this game, when you run from battles, there's one frame where you can do a double jump midair. So I'm able to use that to land on the back seam of the room, and I can enter a loading zone that's loaded underneath the floor. And once I open up the chest on the left side of this room, this sets me in a state at the very end of Chapter 8. So from here, I can go fight Grotus and the Shadow Queen, and it's going to load the previously unloaded portion of this room. So now you can actually walk around and see everything.
We do palace skip in RTA runs. That particular method that you saw is super unviable.
Yeah, because you not only have to
be a person do that.
You can't see Mario when he's off screen, and you need to jump far enough up, and you need to be able to have Koops hit the enemy off screen. It's very, very precise.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I believe you jump on like one of those tiny little corners too, right? Like
say that again, sorry?
Some corner collision you make use of to like get that double jump off.
No, I actually didn't have to use any corner collision now.
Oh, really?
In reality, the corner collision actually made it harder. I think, I don't know, the corner was kind of weird, and it could sometimes limit my height, I think, if I was underneath it. And it was a little difficult to try to get around that collision. But other than that, it was alright.
So yeah. The two really ridiculous parts of that trick are walking around the loading zone collision and timing Koops to hit that Ember off screen for a double jump.
Yeah, there's a faster version of Palace Skip that's useful for RTA, but the problem is it requires the Ultra Hammer, which doesn't take a super long amount of time to go get, but when we're talking about TASs and we're talking about, you know, differences in just a small number of seconds, it's significantly slower to go get the Ultra Hammer. So even with a weird strategy for Palace Skip like this, it's faster to use this method.
Yeah, that Ultra Hammer strategy is also Japanese exclusive, so
right, yeah.
in forfeiting that US exclusive time save in the train.
Yeah, this is the first TAS with without Ultra Hammer, isn't it?
Actually, the previous one was the first one without it.
Oh, was
but
it? Okay.
it is a relatively new route change. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess that is kind of odd. Grotus has less health than Magnus von Grapple.
I'm pretty sure he does more damage though. And he also had Bowser right afterwards.
Right, yeah.
I think they definitely did a good job making the end of this game a little difficult casually.
Oh yeah, they definitely did.
Oh, that's a good point too. Yeah, Grotus has the Grotus X's, so he has some defense that prevents you from attacking him. Absolutely. So yeah, this fight's pretty straightforward, except it's not. Remember how I said there was going to be another use of Showstopper that was going to surprise you? So Bowser and Cammy are susceptible to Showstopper. If you fail the action command, it's a 0.04% chance that it works on both of them. It's a 1 in 2,500 chance that it works on both of them. So I managed to pull that off. By only wasting 2 frames. So yeah, there you go. I hope most of you have never seen that before, but that's actually possible.
Pretty dumb that you can even kill bosses with Showstopper.
It's really dumb.
Like, why'd they even bother?
And there are some other enemies. Wait, where are we going? Wait, I'm going the wrong way.
Yeah, we're going the wrong way.
Wait, we're supposed to go towards the Shadow Queen. What?
Dude,
what?
your TAS desynced.
It
Come on.
desynchronized. No. So we're gonna get to the Shadow Queen a little bit faster than you normally would. So this skip is called the Gloomtail Warp. I'm going to head to the spring, land up top, hop back on Yoshi. On the second time I land on the spring, it's still oscillating, and I can hop off of Yoshi to get jump storage. I can't control Mario right away, so I have to land one more time. Go into paper mode. When I land back up top, I can jump, press Y and neutral on the same frame to go into paper mode without losing jump storage. So I still have jump storage. Go to the right seam here, get out of a fake paper mode state, re-enter real paper mode, step up onto a higher ledge, and then I can super jump all the way to Gloomtail's room. Gloomtail's room in this current game state is used as a cutscene with Frankly in it for the Shadow Queen fight, and entering it with this sequence position causes that cutscene to transition into the cutscene right before the first phase of the Shadow Queen fight. So this skips the really long cutscene of the Shadow Queen, you know, causing the entire world to descend into darkness. So it saves 2.5 minutes. It's not RTA viable. There is an RTA viable method, but it requires bobbery, I think.
It requires Miss Mouse
Is it?
and some Yoshi teleporting. There is a bobbery method, but I wouldn't call that RTA viable.
Okay.
Yeah. And yeah, if I had to guess, they probably put him in that room because you can't get there normally. You're
Right.
locked off because the floor isn't there anymore.
You would think. So
Right.
to deal enough damage to the Shadow Queen, I first need to get Yoshi into peril. So I was able to get the audience to throw garbage at Yoshi, and I do it again here. And I was able to get them to spawn the garbage pretty quickly, which is great. Just defend with Mario, so I can use Yoshi as early as possible. Do 4 ground pounds. That does enough damage. Sadly, 3 ground pounds is just short of the 61 damage that we need to start the second phase. So for this phase, in order to move on to the cutscenes afterwards, you have to hit her 3 quote-unquote separate times. This counts as 1 hit. Attacking with Yoshi does not count as a second hit. Dealing 2 jumps in 1 turn with Mario, like double jumping, does not count. So I kill Yoshi so that that speeds up the next turn, so we don't have to tell Yoshi what to do on the second turn. And there, I manipulated a boo from the audience to hit the Shadow Queen. That counts as the second attack. And then after that, I do 1 more jump with Mario, and we're good. That's the end of the second phase.
It's so weird that that boo counts as an attack, given that it's supposed to be like a status buff. Like, it makes you invisible so you don't take damage.
Yeah,
But it doesn't
right?
work on Shadow Queen.
I don't know why that counts. It's weird.
That's like some big brain stuff I would have never even thought of.
Yeah.
I mean, no one thought of it, because I think it happened on accident once, right?
It did happen on accident to me. You're right.
Did it?
Yeah, I've used that strategy for several TASs in the past, for several years now. So I love being able to recreate it every time. I don't remember how I reacted the first time it occurred, but I do believe that it occurred accidentally.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so throughout these cutscenes, you're going to notice we're not going to recognize a lot of the characters, because there's quite a number of places we have not visited in this TAS.
There's like a bunch of randos here.
Well, I mean, all of these I recognize.
Oh yeah,
This game is a lot of optional content.
Yeah.
yeah. It's all just side quests and such. There's some pretty cool looking stars. I kind of wish we got them.
Dude, when I played casually the first time, I got all the side quest crystal stars.
Oh wow, that's so cool.
Kumo has a good point. I never made that connection where this song matches the reprisal of like the intro cutscene music.
It does, doesn't it?
It does. I never noticed that. Thank you for mentioning that. I'm gonna love knowing that now.
There's some good music tracks in this game.
Absolutely.
I was gonna say there's some good audio work in this game, but there's parts where the audio just flat out cuts out when you play it casually.
Yeah.
Since we never visit Chapter 5, Flavio's here. Got some Flavio, and Four Eyes
Got
is
some
here.
bad
and the Toad
lighting,
is here.
too.
Yeah, and because they're not removed from this cutscene because we never visited Chapter 5, they show up.
Yeah, they're really bright.
I think sadly that's the only time we see Flavio in the TAS. Really upsetting.
One thing this game definitely does a lot is to show how many models they can cram in on the screen.
I think
Right
I
here,
think
yeah.
I think I read something about that, and there's a new I don't know what you'd call it, I guess like a technique called batching, where they would just like clone a bunch of stuff on screen. They really wanted to show it off.
Oh, okay. That's pretty cool.
So for the 100% definition for this game, we've decided that troubles in the Trouble Center do not count towards 100% progression because there's no way to track them on the pause menu. The pause menu has really been the main, I guess, area of reference for what criteria needs to be completed.
The problem is
you two would
that
know
when
better
you-
than me.
When you branch away from the pause menu, then you start like asking questions about all this little frivolous stuff, like should you read all the stories up on the roofs because it grades out the text when you finish.
You have to read all of
Right.
Luigi's stories, I guess. Like,
You get all of the books.
Yeah. Alright, so what we're first going to do, the whole reason that we're getting Yoshi in peril is this. We can use a double dip badge in conjunction with an FP, or with a point swap, to bring our FP down to 1, then switch that with Yoshi's health, so he now has 1 HP. I was able to use a stopwatch there. That can actually affect the Shadow Queen. So now she won't attack on the second turn here. And then I have to deal 2 damage with Mario. And then I can deal the remaining 74 damage with Yoshi through the use of 4 more ground pounds. GG, that's it. Shadow Queen is
GG.
defeated.
It's so silly that you have to use Mario for just 2 HP.
It is, yeah.
Oh yeah.
And I have no clue
So
why
typically-
stopwatch works there. Sleepy Sheep also works. But yeah.
Typically when we do RTA, we end timing after all these cutscenes.
Yeah, because there's still inputs.
Yeah. Yeah, still text to mash through, so.
Exactly.
Shadow Queen defeated in 1 hour and 41 minutes.
And I think our end timing kind of lines up with the end timing for TAS, 'cause it's on the last text box.
Yes, the main
Or
variation
it's
really
close
just
to the last
comes...
text box.
The main variation between RTA timing and TAS timing really is about 16 seconds in the title screen, because TAS timing starts from game boot up. So I have to boot the game up, and I have to traverse through the title screen, select the save file, name the save file, and then start the save file, when normally RTA starts when you actually start the save file. So they get a bit of a head
Oh,
start.
so your TAS actually loses like a second booting up because US has the health and safety screen.
Yes, you're right. Yeah, I forgot to think about that, but yeah, you're absolutely right. I guess there's going to be some downtime here, so this isn't quite over yet. We still have some text to go through, so we'll be here for a little bit more. But I really want to thank everybody for tuning in. I got to show this off for the first time when it was finished on Friday, last Friday. A lot of people tuned in. It was really fun to show this off to so many people who had been waiting for it. Again, if this wasn't made clear, I made this task. My name's Malio, and it's always fun to work on these. This is my 8th task of this game. I always come back to this game because glitch hunters like Solidified Gaming always keep finding new things to keep roping me back into this game. But it's always fun to revisit this game, help show off what this game looks like, and show off all the work that community members have put in to further optimizing this game. What's funny?
Malio says it's fun. He's also insane.
What's funny about this cutscene? It doesn't check what partners you've obtained, so we quite literally have twice as many partners here than we actually obtained in the game.
Yeah, the only one that's gonna check for is Miss Mouse.
Right.
Since she's optimal.
So I guess I'm going to give some thanks. At the start of the stream, you might have seen the thumbnail image for the countdown. That image was made by Muzz. Their on Twitter is MuzzYoshi. Feel free to check them out. They do great artwork. They're basically known as the TTYD artists, I guess. So feel free to check them out. I also need to thank again Solidified Gaming for his constant dedication for finding a bunch of these tricks. Really Tall as well. Really Tall was the first person to perform the new teleported room early method, so he's ultimately why this task was able to happen. And he's also found various different glitches and strategies throughout the years as well. Piston Miner helped with some some texture edits to make optimizing a portion of Chapter 1 a lot easier. JD Aster, we mentioned him earlier. He's the ultimate battle mechanics guy to talk to if you need to learn how battles and audience members work and stuff like that. So he was a big part in saving, upwards of maybe 15 seconds or so, just because I could get the item throws so quickly in Chapter 1. I could get the 18 cap and the bucket drop in Hooktail in the Hooktail fight. And the Mega Rush P drops in the sewers battles. I also need to thank Venive. Venive is another community member. He helped route this. This task would have been tremendously slower if it weren't for him. He helped out a ton. And then I also want to thank Soric and Monado for commentating with me today. It was a lot of fun to have you two here, especially Soric, right? You said you haven't seen this before. You didn't watch.
Yeah, it's my first time looking at it.
Yeah, so I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it lived up to your expectations. You were pretty optimistic with your guess. For context, I held a giveaway for a gift card to the person that could guess closest to the final time. Soric ended up being a little too optimistic, but I appreciate it, And yeah, I also got partnered on Twitch during this time too while streaming this task. So just everything about this task, I love it. I'll always have a lot of great memories.
Yeah, excellent work as
about
always.
working on this. Yeah, thank you.
You're really good with it.
When it comes to just shouting out the 1,000-Year Door community, there's always just way too many people to talk about. So many people work to either just make this game faster or just like are fun to hang out with in Discord. But the person I always go back to give a shout out to is Zephyrus. Just his work, especially on the RTA front, making the 1,000-Year Door practice codes really made getting good at this game a lot easier.
Yeah, if there's anybody that's ever at any point in time thought about trying to learn this game, get into it, and be part of the community, now's a better time than ever. These practice codes that Zeph made, it makes things so much easier to practice again and again. And the community's very active. Feel free to, in the chat, you can do TTYD Discord to get the link. Feel free to ask questions. And
also, I'd head over to speedrun.com/T2ID if you want to check out the leaderboard or the routes, or we've got a really out-of-date glitch index, but it's got some cool info in it.
And then, task timing ends right here that was the last input for that text box. So the final time of the task is 1 hour, 47 minutes, and 9 seconds. I believe the RTA timing is 1:46:54. And for reference, I think that's
it's over half an hour faster than anyone's ever done.
Oh yeah.
Pretty crazy.
Yeah, so we can sit through the credits and just chat, I guess, and then after that, I believe we'll head off. Somebody asked in chat a little bit earlier how many re-records were in this task. So just for a little bit more context, so a re-record is anytime you load a save state for a task. I loaded a save state to a total of 250,000 times. Ultimately, that was because I was using a lot of brute force scripts. And I had to redo portions of the task a lot of times. So that adds up very, very quickly.
Yeah, when did you
Yeah.
begin work on this task again?
This was near, I think, mid to late March, I think. So it took me a total of, about 3 months to work on it. That might not, if somebody's experienced with making tasks, that might sound like a quick amount of time. But really, I think it's better put into context when you realize, like, this is my 8th task of this game, which is great because I know this game really, really well. And it makes working on portions of this game very, very easy, and I'm able to be really, really efficient with it. So,
right, you know the ins and outs and how it works.
Yeah, 3 months wasn't a lot. What I'm really worried about, here's a little bit of a thing for the future. I am currently now actively working with the community to design a 100% TAS route. And when it's finished, I'll begin working on the longest and most difficult task I've ever worked on in my entire life. So that'll be really, really fun. Really difficult, but really, really fun. And I really hope I think the time that I'd be satisfied with for 100% would maybe to beat the world record RTA by about an hour. I think the human record is just under 8 hours. I want a sub 7-hour time. I would be happy with that.
I think that's definitely possible.
You think so?
Oh,
okay.
without a doubt.
Okay.
Yeah, I could honestly probably see like a 650, 645.
Yeah? Okay. Initially, I was thinking 630, but I thought that was too optimistic.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, I think a giveaway for that, having people guess the final time for the 100% task, would be even more interesting than any percent, because it would be so much harder to guess the final time accurately, because going into it, I don't even know what the final time is going to be. I have zero clue. So
you should,
right, you can't give like an estimate, or like a guesstimate, I should say.
You should like open up the competition right now, and if like the earlier your time is, the better your prize is. Like the earlier you get your time guessing, it's like we won't know anything about it for a while.
Yeah, it'd be pretty cool.
Well, then if I click off, does that freezes my game footage? I want to link the video on you. Oh, thank you somebody for linking the video. Yeah, Kumo, thank you. Because anytime I tab out, it pauses the game feed. Lastly, if somebody can do exclamation mark commentary, you'll get Twitch links to my Twitch account, as well as Monato's and Sorik's. Feel free to follow us. I mainly focus on tool-assisted speedruns for this game, but if you really want to see some great RTA gameplay, feel free to follow Sorik and Monato. And yeah, I think Monato,
really crazy.
You're more so doing right now. You're doing 100% speedruns and max upgrades, is it?
Yeah, I focus on more of the longer categories, really.
Mm-hmm. And then Sorik, you're mainly, I think, are you mainly any percent still?
I don't know what I'm doing.
No, okay, a little bit of everything.
Games.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, it's really crazy seeing even for a tool-assisted run, this game coming in under 2 hours. Because back when I started running the game, it was like almost 7 years ago at this point. The RTA run was over 5.5, and
yeah,
most people were getting around 6, and now people are out into 230 RPA.
Yeah, the first ever task for this game that I helped make was 4 hours and 52 minutes. So it's crazy that I was able to beat it by over 3 hours. That's ridiculous.
My first any percent speedrun back in November 2013 was 7 hours and 49 minutes.
Wow.
So,
Wow.
And
there
that
you
was
have
pretty
it.
average. That was pretty average for someone's first run at the time. So the whole community's come a long way.
The end. And that brings us to the end of our speedy journey throughout the TTYD universe.
Got to go back and get all that optional content in the next task.
True. I will. I think with that, I believe we're about ready to end the stream. Thank you everybody again for tuning in. That was a lot of fun. It means the world that I was able to do this last minute. And yeah, I'm really glad so many of you appreciate the work that I do. It really means a lot. So thank you for the support.
Shout out to the RPG Limit Break guys for letting us use the channel.
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah.
Thank you everybody so much for allowing us to show this off. So unless you two have any last comments, I think I'm gonna end stream. Do you guys have anything left to say?
No, not personally, no.
I'll just say I think Malia touched on this earlier, but now is definitely the best time to get into 1,000 Door runs. So
For
if
sure.
you're at all interested, check out speedrun.com/T2ID. It's got links to pretty much anything you need. Hop in the Discord. We'll help you out.
Absolutely.
Always looking for new members.
All right, with that, we're gonna head off for the night. Thank you everybody again for watching, and I hope everybody has a good rest of your night. Peace.
See ya.
See ya.